to episode 293 of Late Night Linux, recorded on the 29th of July 2024. I'm Joe, and with me are Félim.
I need a pack of crisps.
Graham.
Hello.
And Will.
This is now.
That's only going to be funny in a few weeks. Don't spoil how the sausage is made, Will. And what are you talking about crisps, Félim?
I will be starving in 4 or 5 weeks' time, whenever it is. I don't know. Time works weird. But I'm hungry then.
You've just spoiled that we recorded the intros for the next two before this one. Anyway, don't worry about that. Let's get straight on with our discoveries. Will, MQTT Dcode. Haven't we had this about 5 times already?
I don't think so. I don't think we've had this one, and I don't think we've had it because it's quite new.
I was going to say, it's only 3 days old.
Well, it's a little bit older than that, and by the time this goes out, it'll be a bit older still. But friend of the show and Mosquito Supremo, Roger Light, has got a new tool. Roger's use case is slightly different from the one I had in my mind. If you are fuzzing something to try and break it and find ways in which it doesn't work, one of the ways you might fuzz a Mosquito server, an MQTT server, is just to send loads of random bytes to it. But if you're not watching what those random bytes are, you don't really have a way of understanding what the contents of those packets were and how to go about reproducing the bug. So MQTT Dcode will grab a load of hex bytes, a hex string very specifically, and allow you to visualize exactly what the contents of that MQTT message were that went into making up the thing that broke it. So that's useful. My use case is slightly different. I think it would be extremely useful to take a hex string out of Wireshark and stick it through this tool so that you can just sniff those bytes straight off the wire in like T-Shark or something and pipe them through MQTT Dcode and see what's going on at the byte level in real time. I haven't actually done that yet, so maybe there are better ways of doing it in Wireshark already. But a useful tool nonetheless if you are a security researcher or you're interested in very low-level MQTT stuff, then go and check out MQTT Dcode.
Félim, Cloudflare DNS was blocking apps.kde.org? Surely not.
Absolute shower of bastards up there. So, obviously, young chap in the house, we just want to make sure and take away, if he wants to look up things he's not supposed to, I want him to put some effort in and get past the system. So, implemented that simple one that Will ages ago suggested, which was the Cloudflare 1113, and I think it's 1003 is the other backup post to it, and it filters out things like gambling, advertisements, and porn. So it's an easy win. It's a DNS level thing. You can just put it in. So I have the Pi-hole, and its upstream that it looks for is those Cloudflare servers. And I was trying to look up a app, and I went to apps.kde.org because I run it on my machine because I might as well dog food it. And yeah, it wouldn't resolve. And I thought, oh, the site's down. And I was about to ping Alish from KD because he was foolish enough to send me his Telegram details. So, that's just an open excuse for me to harass him at the nearest chance. I did a dig on it. And yeah, it returned 0000. And I thought, well, hang on a sec. That's very much DNS purposely telling me that it doesn't know where to go to. So I went to look it up and I found there is a site called Radar for Cloudflare, and it has a list of all their domains that are part of their resolvers and what people have, I don't know if people vote for them or flag them or whatever. And some absolute bastard had put it to be blocked for questionable activities. And I said, well, fuck right off. And I unflagged it and I said, absolute load of shite. And I checked to see if Gnome was flagged for the same thing because I don't see why it should be any different. In fact, actually, I think it was on the gnome.apps page that somebody had linked to before, which was like, that page is quite nice. I better go look at ours again, see what it looks like. And then I couldn't reach it. And I thought, fucking Gnome guys have probably put KD's apps page in here. But I, being a better person, didn't put the Gnome apps page in there. But if there's any other open source project that has been listed by this for some nonsense reason, it is your duty to mark it as not and free it from these idiots that said it was questionable. So there you go.
So how long did it take between you saying it was legit and it becoming unflagged?
I don't exactly know, but I have so because I wasn't entirely sure whether I would trust myself or not, I actually took a dump of my bash prompt on a Friday, where I then went and did it, and then again on a Saturday morning when I checked again, and it was actually clear then after that, so it was all fine and well. So it didn't take long.
Not bad.
Yeah, not bad, but still annoying.
Graham, Durdraw.
So this is a bit nostalgic. When I got my Commodore 64 in something like 1982 or 1983, the Christmas, it came with a demo cassette of what ended up being kind of ASCII art. So it would draw pictures on the television made out of characters from the keyboard. And they would be animated and there'd be a nice tune to go along with it. There was a lovely Christmas scene and some other bits. Durdraw is an ASCII art editor for the 21st century, which allows you to create animations very, very similar to those Commodore 64 demos, and also a little bit like Deluxe Paint on the Amiga that came later. This is a big thing in the kind of demo scene, and ASCII art seems to be just as popular as ever. It allows you to load the files, save the files, animate them, supports all kinds of formats. It's like a text editor for adding special characters and colours, and it's a lot of fun, even if you're not interested in drawing.
Seeing those pixels that are kind of shaded to look like another color, so you could get, more than 16 colors by adding dithering, reminds me of dialing into BBSs and things in the late 80s. It's really nice to see this kind of picture again. Yeah,
I feel exactly the same way. I found it and gave it a go and spent longer than I thought I would playing around with it.
Well, I've discovered that Linux Mint 22 is quite good.
Who are you?
Well, I know, right. Okay, let me give you the background on this. So one of my ThinkPads doesn't play nicely with Ubuntu 24.04. I haven't been able to fully track down this bug yet because it's intermittent, which is just the worst kind of bug. But quite often it just won't boot. And I think it's getting stuck initializing USB devices, maybe. And I can't replicate it with Ubuntu 24.04. So I don't know if it might be an Xorg thing. Anyway, I haven't been able to get to the bottom of it, and it's really annoying. And then I saw Linux Mint 22 had come out recently, and I thought, I suppose I'll give it a go, see what it's like. And I tried the Cinnamon version first, and it was really quite pleasant to use. I didn't do any of the snapshot backup business that it offers. I just installed it and started using it, and there were a few little quirks and stuff that I had to fix, but it was just a very pleasant, basic computing experience that got out of my way.
Remind me, which is Cinnamon again? Is that the old Gnome 2, or is this something completely different?
No, the old Gnome 2 got forked as Mate. Cinnamon came out around the same time, and it started from Gnome 3 and them kind of using some extensions, and I think eventually it kind of mostly got rewritten, and so it's their own homegrown desktop, and it is very Windows-like in that you've got a taskbar at the bottom or a panel at the bottom, and a searchable menu bottom left and clock bottom right, and everything's just sort of where it should be. Buttons are in the right place. Everything just works fine. It's pleasant. It's not exciting. It's not like really cool or anything. It just does the job. But there were a few little quirks that weren't quite the same as what I'm used to with Ubuntu. And so I thought, let's try the XFCE version. And so I installed that. I've had no such problems with the weird refusing to boot business. It's based on 24.04. There's no snaps installed at all, which is obviously a terrible shame, isn't it, Graham? Or a bonus, depending on which way you look at it. And it's all pretty much laid out the same as the Cinnamon version. I made a couple of little tweaks here and there, turned tap to click on, swapped my 2 and 3 finger clicks as I normally do. And really, what it strikes me as is very similar to Ubuntu, only with a bit more love and attention, really. Just a few of the weird quirks with Ubuntu that I'd sort of learnt to work around. Like, for the longest time, when you shut the lid of the laptop, having told it to just turn the screen off and don't do any screen locking or anything, and then you open it again, it opens up fine, but you can't click on anything and you have to just hard reboot it. Well, no such thing in Linux Mint XFCE.
So is this curtains for Ubuntu for you then?
It's not curtains for it, because I do still have these lingering doubts about Linux Mint and some of the like really quite bad security fuck-ups that they did back in the day. And so I don't know whether to fully commit to it, but I'm thinking on my main laptop, I might do it. Because this is just on one of my ThinkPads, and I've been, for the last couple of days, just using my ThinkPad as I would, watching YouTube and stuff like that, and preparing show notes and whatnot. But I am very seriously considering making the change, which makes me sad in a way, but also happy that there is a loved XFCE version of Ubuntu out there.
I'm glad I'm sitting down, because otherwise I would have face planted off the corner of the desk.
I'm not going to criticize the Ubuntu team, but I just don't think that they have the time and energy to give it the love that they once did. And so you're getting these long-standing bugs that I don't even consider bugs anymore. I've just learned to work around them. And there's a few little other paper cuts here and there that just don't seem to exist on this Mint XFCE.
Showing my ignorance here, I don't know how many people are working on Ubuntu anymore, but I do think that it is a reflection of the shrinking community generally, that they aren't getting the testing feedback at the early days to spot these bugs early enough, and they're not getting, well, I don't know, this is just me guessing now, they're not getting enough support to actually work on fixing some of those because they're doing it as a hobby. And, you know, all of these things that run as hobbies ultimately run out of steam and run out of people supporting them. The blank screen, or rather the seemingly dead computer bug that you talk about, I've seen that on my ThinkPad with XFCE or with Ubuntu. And I think that the screen is being locked and the computer is going to sleep. And when it's waking up, you are actually at the lock screen. And if you do like a Control-Alt F1, Control-Alt F7, I think you'll find that you'll be back at a login prompt, or just blindly type your password in to the seemingly dead session and see if it unlocks. That is risky, of course.
Your session that's in IRC and it's broadcast across the world.
Well, no, obviously I've tried changing it to a different TTY and that just doesn't work. So maybe I'll try. I never thought to try just blindly typing in the password, but I'll have to carefully test that one, I think.
You'll only make that mistake once.
Well, do you though?
But you are right that it is on me and every other user of Ubuntu. Like, I should have been more active in reporting bugs rather than just learning to work around them.
I mean, I know this is going to blow the pair of you two XFCE people's minds, but maybe people just want nice things. Just saying, you know, there's a whole range of colours outside those 256.
That many? Well, I still love it.
Good.
I love XFCE. I love Ubuntu. I'm staring at it right now, but Mint XFCE is calling me, I think. Okay, this episode is sponsored by 1Password. Imagine your company's security like the quad of a college campus. There are nice brick paths between the buildings. Those are company-owned devices, IT-approved apps, and managed employee identities. And then there are the paths people actually use, the shortcuts worn through the grass that are the actual straightest line from point A to B. Those are unmanaged devices, shadow IT apps, and non-employee identities like contractors. Most security tools only work on those happy brick paths, but a lot of security problems take place on the shortcuts. 1Password Extended Access Management is the first security solution that brings all these unmanaged devices, apps, and identities under your control. It ensures that every user credential is strong and protected, every device is known and healthy, and every app is visible. 1Password Extended Access Management solves the problems traditional IAM and MDM can't touch. It's security for the way we work today, and it's available now to companies with Okta and coming later this year to Google Workspace and Microsoft Entra. So support the show and check it out at onepassword.com/late-night-linux. That's onepassword.com/late-night-linux. On to a bit of admin then. First of all, thank you everyone who supports us with PayPal and Patreon. We really do appreciate that. If you want to join those people, you can go to late-night-linux.com/support. And remember that for various amounts on Patreon, you can get an advert-free RSS feed of either just this show or all the shows in the Late Night Linux family. And you even get some episodes early. And if you want to get in contact, you can email show@latenightlinux.com. Let's do some feedback then. Thank you everyone who got in touch about us being moaning negative bastards, saying carry on. I think that was rather self-selecting, the kind of people who would write to us.
It's funny that. It's almost like we designed an email rule to make sure.
Yeah. But I don't think it's possible for us to be anything else, so don't worry. We're not going to be all, have a nice day. Richard writes, I don't hear my favourite browser get much love, so I thought I'd mention it. I use the Vivaldi browser on Pop! OS. I also use it as default on my Android TV. On the desktop, I love the ability to set up workspaces, and in those workspaces I can have a large number of tabs. Each of those tabs can be a group of tabs. Each tab or a tab group can be moved to another workspace. I know it's mad to have so many tabs open, but with the luxury of lots of RAM, it works so well.
So many tabs. I have so many tabs I had to install a plugin that I could hide the other tabs from the other tabs.
Seems to have put tabs in his tabs.
Yeah, seems a bit overkill to me. But I think the reason that we don't talk about Vivaldi is because it's not open source.
Exactly. That is the unfortunate problem with it.
I mean, if you're going to just use Chrome, then why not use Vivaldi? But if you want something open source, then it seems like Firefox is your only viable option, really. So I'm sure it's a great browser, but it's just not open source, so we're not going to talk about it.
There's always Falcon, the KDE Chrome-based browser, if you really want to.
Yeah, what's the GNOME one?
Web, probably.
Something with an E? Epiphany, is it?
Evans. No. That's the PDF thing, isn't it? Kevin. I think it's called Kevin.
Right, yeah. Isaac writes, in episode 288, Félim was talking about how PuTTY implemented right-click for paste as some sort of weird Windows one-off. I wanted to weigh in and say I always thought that was an original Unix implementation, as in the olden days, with 3-button mice, when you were using the terminal in Motif on IRIX, the left button was copy, the middle button was cut, and the right button was paste. So I've always seen the right button as paste as being an original Unix feature. Is Isaac out-olding us here?
No, but I think that's wrong, though. I still think that's wrong the way that PuTTY does it, because double-clicking highlights it. Center-clicking pastes what you've highlighted. That is not what goes on with PuTTY. With PuTTY, you highlight it and go to copy it, and it instantly pastes. There is no right-click menu on it. I mean, look, I can't obviously compare it to... I don't have an old-school Unix, but I'm pretty sure that it's conflating two things into one in PuTTY. I mean, I have a middle click. It's on my mouse wheel, and I oftentimes use that. If I'm using Nano or if I'm in a terminal. I double click it with my left mouse button and then middle button click to get it to paste it. But that is not what PuTTY does.
I think that Isaac is just older than you, Félim, and more experienced in the ways of Unix.
Possibly.
And you are wrong.
He's not actually older than me, but he might be using older Unix.
Maybe.
In that case, he wouldn't have used a mouse.
Unless it was the Xerox PARC mouse itself, handed down by generations.
James writes, recently, Will said the Fediverse was boring as shit, and that he wanted to see memes and cat videos on it. I find plenty of memes and cat videos, along with Linux content, on the Fediverse on Lemmy. I recommend the fedit.uk instance, the Eternity app for Android, and that will give it a go, or please kindly fuck off.
I did try the Fedit UK and the URL's wrong, or I don't know. I couldn't get it to even open, so I gave up with that. Then I tried Lemmy, and I think I'm missing some key critical understanding about how this sort of stuff works, because this just seems to be like Hacker News or something like that, a list of links. But that's not really what I want to look for. What I'm looking for on the Fediverse is a whole bunch of posts with that sort of content in it. I don't want to have to go to another website in order to see my cat videos. What am I missing?
What you're missing is it's not websites, it's the Fediverse. And Lemmy is like the sort of Fediverse version of Reddit. And most people don't use Reddit via the web, they use an app for it. And so what James is recommending is you install the Eternity app for Android, although you use iOS, don't you? So there's bound to be a Lemmy compatible app for that. And because it's all federated, you'll probably be able to plug the Fostodon stuff in as well. And I don't know, it's all the new way of doing things.
Well, I think one of my objections was that it was very confusing, and I stand by that. It is still very confusing, and I don't understand how it works, and I've no interest in learning, so bollocks to it.
I mean, it feels a little bit like Reddit, but where everything, I mean, I don't fucking get Reddit either, but you know, the /r thing, it feels like everything after the /r is a new website off on a different place, and you have to go find it, and you're like, oh my God. was like, well, how do I know them? How are they discoverable? I don't get that.
I think the app idea is a good one. When I used to use Reddit, I used an app on Android called Boost, which is a really great app. And when the developer of Boost could no longer, access Reddit's APIs, they created a Lemmy version of Boost with exactly the same UI. So I got that and just carried on using Boost in exactly the same way I did on Reddit. But now I'm using Lemmy, and I notice a difference in the content, but I've basically subscribed to all the same things and get pretty much the same experience, only through Lemmy content.
Yeah, it's like Mastodon is the Twitter for the Fediverse, and Lemmy is the Reddit for the Fediverse. Now, I was never interested in Reddit in the first place, so that's why I don't know anything about it. Whereas Mastodon was like Twitter, which was what I was into before fucking Elon ruined it.
Yeah, but I've half-arsed used Reddit, and the thing about it is the fact that it kind of entices you into various other subreddits, right? How do you do that if that is a entirely different instance? I don't quite understand the link in Lemmy. Like I know there's a Lemmy KD instance, and I've used it for a short while and then went, okay, I prefer the blog. But I don't get how, how would that get me into something else?
Well, it's like Mastodon. Everyone's on a different instance. You've got to just discover it somehow and then follow it.
Yeah, but people in Mastodon link to each other, and it's that sort of cross-pollination thing goes on, whereas I haven't seen that in Lemmy. But maybe it's just a bad example. I don't know.
I think you're holding it wrong.
Probably, yeah.
Right, well, we better get out of here then. We'll be back next week when who knows what it'll be. But until then, I've been Joe.
I've been Félim.
I've been Graham.
And I've been Will.
See you later.